There's a house in Norfolk, Virginia, where time feels stuck. The windows are always shut, the lawn too neatly trimmed, and a single porch light burns 24 hours a day. Neighbors say it's empty, but every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., someone turns the light off, then back on. When police finally entered, they found the walls covered in children's drawings, hundreds of them, and a woman sitting in a rocking chair, humming a lullaby to a doll with no face. She had no ID, no fingerprints on file, and no memory of how she got there. It began the way some nightmares do, with silence. Detective Lena Maris stood at the threshold of 912, Brighton Lane, hands at her sides, breath fogging the glass storm door. Late October. Norfolk's air had that salty chill from the Elizabeth River. Behind her, the blue and white patrol car lights spiraled lazily, painting the hedges with spinning gilt. This house had been abandoned for 3 years. At least, that was the official belief, until Mrs. Everly, the sweet old widow across the street, finally called in last week. Said she'd seen the porch light flicker during a thunderstorm. At first, no one believed her. Then she swore she saw a silhouette in the upstairs window. A woman. Just standing there. So now Lena was here, badge under her coat, Glock on her hip, and a strange lump in her throat she couldn't swallow down. She knocked. No answer. The door creaked open with a push. The air inside smelled like talcum powder and mildew. The kind of smell old memories have, if memories could rot. The living room looked staged, not for guests, but for someone pretending to remember what a home should look like. Couch with floral slipcovers, a rocking chair, a dusty TV with rabbit ears. But not a speck of dust on the remote. Or the chair. Lena stepped in slowly, gun drawn, heart thudding. Then she heard it, humming. Off-key, like a broken music box. Coming from the hallway beyond the kitchen. She called out, "Norfolk PD. Is anyone here?" The humming stopped. Lena froze. Then the voice, soft, childlike, "Shh, you'll wake her." She moved toward the sound, flashlight sweeping over walls covered in drawings. Crayon and marker and ink, some of them new, still curling with moisture. Stick figures with wide, black eyes. Houses. A river. A burning sun. And dolls. Always the dolls. No faces. At the end of the hall was the source. A woman, maybe early 30s, sitting barefoot in a rocking chair in a dim, yellow-lit nursery. She wore a white nightgown stained at the hem. In her arms, she cradled a doll, pale linen body, stitched hands, no face. Just a blank canvas of cotton where the eyes should be. She looked up and smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "I was waiting for her to come back," the woman whispered. "Who?" Lena asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she said something else. Something that made Lena's stomach tighten. "Have I been good today, Mommy?" Lena lowered her gun slightly. "Ma'am, what's your name?" The woman blinked. She said not to tell. "Who said?" She pointed toward the crib, empty and still. "The other me." And then she began to rock. The next morning, Lena sat in a gray interrogation room at Norfolk General Psychiatric Unit, reviewing the initial psychiatric report. Subject appears catatonic with intermittent lucid episodes. No identification found. No evidence of forced entry or prior residence. Patient insists she has always lived at 912, Brighton Lane. Possible dissociative identity disorder. Further evaluation required. Lena couldn't shake one thing. The woman's voice. That strange innocence. And something darker, buried beneath it, like a second person breathing beneath the words. The mystery was just beginning. And the porch light was on again. Lena returned to Brighton Lane the following evening. She parked across the street, windows up, heater humming low. The house looked harmless in the dusk, quaint, even. Pale blue siding, sagging gutters, rose bushes trying to bloom out of season. But to Lena, it throbbed with something unseen, like a second pulse beneath the quiet. She wasn't here on official business. No warrant. Just instinct. Something about the woman, the way she rocked, the drawings, the voice like a splintered child, had gotten under her skin. Inside the house, forensics had swept the place clean. No prints except the woman's. No sign of forced entry. No name, no records, no match in any system. She didn't exist. Lena stepped out of her car and crossed the street. The porch creaked. The air smelled faintly of lavender and bleach. She reached into her coat for her flashlight and noticed the mail slot, stuffed with unopened envelopes. One caught her eye, an electric bill. Addressed not to the woman, but to a Dr. Malcolm R. Hyde. She took it. Back at her apartment, Lena dug in. Malcolm Hyde had been a child psychiatrist at Norfolk Children's Medical Center. Retired. No recent activity, but an address led her to a quiet retirement condo in Ghent. She visited the next morning. A nurse let her in. Dr. Hyde was 74. Thin, sharp-eyed, with the measured speech of someone who used to carry too much authority. When Lena showed him the photo, a still from the body cam, the woman in the rocking chair, he didn't flinch. "I was wondering when someone would find her," he said. "You know her?" "I did. Years ago." "Name?" "She went by Sadie. But that wasn't her real name. That's the name she used when she regressed." Lena frowned. "Regressed?" Dr. Hyde folded his hands. "Dissociative identity disorder. It used to be called multiple personality disorder. Rare. Highly misunderstood. She was a patient of mine when she was 15. Severe trauma. I can't share the file, but I remember enough. Family. She had none. State custody. Foster homes, the kind that break more than they help." Lena's voice dropped. "What happened to her?" "She disappeared. Walked out of her last group home and never came back. That was 20 years ago." Lena stared at the old man. He added, "There's something you need to know. Sadie wasn't the host." "The host?" "Indeed, the host is the primary identity, the one most people see. Sadie was an alter. A child. She only surfaced when the pain was too much." "Then who's the host?" Dr. Hyde paused. "Her name was Amelia. Bright. Quiet. Haunted." Lena felt the hair rise on her arms. Why would she go back to that house? Hyde looked away. Maybe because that's where she broke. That night, Lena dreamed of drawings. Hundreds of them, covering her own walls. The faceless dolls. The river. The burning sun. And a small girl with black hair, standing in the hallway. When Lena tried to speak, the girl opened her mouth and screamed. She woke up gasping. Checked her phone. 2:17 a.m. The porch light on Brighton Lane had just gone out. Lena went back the next morning, this time with backup, Officer Travers, tall, silent, and skeptical as hell. They had no warrant, but enough probable cause to walk through again. The house was still under city custody, technically part of an active psychological welfare investigation. The front door groaned as it opened. Lena's flashlight swept the hallway. The drawings were gone. All of them, she muttered. Travers raised an eyebrow. "You sure they weren't catalogued?" "No. I was here." This place was a gallery of madness. They moved deeper into the house. The nursery, too, had changed. The rocking chair was there, but the crib was missing. The doll was gone. And the walls, once papered with pastel animals, were bare now, flaking white paint over wood. Lena crouched, brushed her fingers over the floorboards. Fresh scratches. Thin and deep. Like someone had dragged something heavy or tried to claw their way out. She turned to Travers. "What about upstairs?" They moved as one. The staircase moaned underfoot. The second floor had 3 doors, a master bedroom, a guest room, and a bathroom. But Lena paused. There had been 4 doors last time. She was sure of it. One between the guest room and the bathroom, narrow, with a brass knob. She remembered brushing her shoulder against it on the way out. Now it was just wall. She ran her fingers along the painted drywall. Knocked. Hollow. "I need a crowbar," she said. Travers scoffed. "You think they sealed off a whole room?" "I don't think." "I know." They left, returned an hour later with tools and quiet urgency. Lena pried at the edge of the drywall, cutting through with a box cutter she kept in her glove compartment. Just fell like ash. Behind the fake wall, a door. Old. Splintering. Brass knob just as she remembered. She forced it open. The smell hit first. Sour rot, stale wood, and something else coppery. Inside was a child's bedroom. Not a nursery. A real child's room, untouched for decades. Faded wallpaper. A twin bed with moth-eaten blankets. A bookshelf collapsed in the corner. And toys, dozens of them, arranged in a perfect semicircle on the floor. All facing the door. All dolls. Faceless. At the center of the room, nailed to the wall, was a single photograph. Black and white. A little girl in a white dress, standing in the yard outside this very house. Written in ink along the bottom, Amelia, age 7. Lena's breath caught. Then Travers whispered, "Jesus. Look at this." He pointed to the floor beside the bed, deep gouges. The kind made by fingernails. The room wasn't just hidden. It was sealed. Lena stepped inside. The air felt wrong. Heavy. The way basements feel in dreams. She crossed to the closet and pulled the door open. Inside, something lay bundled in a sheet. She crouched, unwrapped it. A diary. Leather-bound. Child's handwriting inside. The first page read, "My name is Amelia. Mommy says I don't exist." Then something scratched across the wall behind her. She turned. Nothing there. But one of the dolls had fallen over, and its face was no longer blank. It had a stitched smile and eyes, and it was staring at her. Back at her apartment, Lena sat with the diary under a yellow lamp, her fingers trembling slightly as she flipped the pages. The handwriting shifted, at first, childish block letters, then gradually more cursive, more frantic. There were dozens of entries, most of them short, repetitive, obsessive. "Mommy says I can only speak when I'm her. The dolls are good. I need to be good like them. If I cry, she locks me in the small room. I have to be quiet or the shadows come." The ink smeared in parts, like tears had mixed with the words. Then, one entry, dated in shaky numbers, stood out. "Dr. Hyde said the voices aren't real, but he doesn't hear them at night. He doesn't see the other me." Lena stared at it for a long time. Another page was torn out, jagged edge still clinging to the binding. She flipped to the back cover. There, and pinned so hard it had carved into the leather. "I don't want to be her anymore. I want to be gone." The next morning, she drove to Norfolk Children's Medical Center. Old building. Beige halls. The wing Hyde once worked in was now storage. After some digging, Lena got access to archived records. One thick, weathered file marked Amelia R. Kessler, state custody. Inside, a case history that read like a horror story. Removed from home at age 7. Severe neglect. Signs of physical and emotional abuse. Diagnosed early with PTSD, then later with dissociative identity disorder. Multiple alters identified. Sadie, child. Janine, protective. Mother, aggressive, punitive. One note, scribbled by Dr. Hyde. Mother only surfaces when Amelia is threatened. Strong language. Commands obedience. Has stated she is the real parent, that Amelia is just the echo. Patient shows fear of her own reflection. Lena whispered the name aloud, Mother. The journal entries made more sense now. Mommy wasn't her mother. Mommy was one of herselves. That night, Lena returned to Brighton Lane. Alone again. She had to see the room one more time. Inside, the dolls were where they'd been, except now, all of them had faces. Stitched smiles. Button eyes. Their heads turned slightly toward the closet. Lena opened it again. The diary was gone. In its place, another doll. This one with black yarn hair, and a small plastic badge sewn to its chest. A replica of Lena's own. A whisper crawled from the darkness behind her. "You shouldn't be here." She turned sharply, but the room was empty. The door creaked closed. She ran to it, pulled hard. It wouldn't open. Then a voice from the other side, soft, childlike. "Sure, Mommy's sleeping." The lights flickered. Something moved in the reflection of the closet mirror. Not Lena. Another her. Pale. Wide-eyed. Grinning. Then the room plunged into darkness. Lena felt her hand hit the wall, clawing for the switch. When the lights came back on, the dolls were gone. And written across the mirror, in something that smelled metallic. "You're hers now, too." She didn't remember how she got outside. She just remembered the cold. And that every window in the house was now open. Lena took medical leave the next day. Officially, she cited exhaustion. Unofficially, she couldn't look at her own reflection without shivering. It wasn't just the mirror in that room. Since that night, every reflective surface, bathroom mirror, store window, her rear view, seemed to flicker, just for a second. Like her reflection was a beat behind. Watching. Waiting. She started taping newspaper over her mirrors. She wasn't sleeping. When she did, she dreamed of the house. But it wasn't Brighton Lane anymore. It was smaller, darker. And she was younger. 7, maybe 8. Walking barefoot through a hallway of mirrors. Each one showing a different version of herself. Crying, screaming, smiling too wide. In one, she saw the woman in the nightgown. Sadie. In another, Mother. The worst one was empty. And in the dream, that's the one she always walked into. She woke drenched in sweat. Her badge was missing from the nightstand. Later, she found it in the freezer. She hadn't opened the freezer in days. She knew what was happening. Knew the signs. Knew the condition too well. But she didn't want to name it. Instead, she went to see Dr. Hyde again. His eyes were heavy when she entered his condo. "You're not here as a detective anymore, are you?" he asked gently. "No," she admitted. "You've seen her. Really seen her." Lena nodded. "And something got inside you." Her breath caught. "Is that even possible? Can dissociation spread?" Dr. Hyde didn't answer right away. "Then, not in the way you're thinking." But trauma is contagious. The mind is vulnerable, especially to things it can't explain. You spent too long in that house. You were already tired. Vulnerable. He leaned forward. Have you lost time? Lena looked down at her hands. Yes. Any dreams where you're someone else? Yes. Voices. She hesitated. One. Who is it? Lena looked up. Her voice broke. She says she's trying to help. Dr. Hyde exhaled. It's begun. What has? He reached into his old file cabinet and pulled out a cassette tape, labeled Amelia, Session 24. I want you to hear something, he said. He played it. The recording was old, scratchy. A young girl's voice, trembling. She comes when I'm scared. She makes everything stop hurting. A pause. Then another voice, deeper, adult, maternal, layered over hers like a second mouth inside the same throat. Amelia is weak. I am not. I take care of her. I take care of all the little girls who get broken and thrown away. Lena's mouth went dry. She's not just an altar, Dr. Hyde said. She's a system, a defense, a weapon. And now, she's looking for a new home. Lena stood. I need to go back. Hyde's face darkened. Lena, don't. I need to see what happened to her. He didn't stop her. But as she reached the door, he said one last thing. Be careful what part of yourself you leave behind. That night, Lena returned to Brighton Lane one final time. She brought no flashlight, only the mirror from her bathroom, wrapped in cloth. The door was already open. The house swallowed her. There was no breeze, yet every door creaked slightly open as Lena walked past. The air felt like an exhale, stale, warm, and expectant. She moved through the dark with a strange confidence, like her feet remembered paths her mind hadn't walked yet. Down the hallway, past the living room, back to the hidden room upstairs. The door was shut now, as if waiting. She unwrapped the mirror and set it against the wall beside her, its back to the door. Then she opened it. The room hadn't changed. The same toys, the same moth-eaten bed. But now the dolls were all facing the mirror. And sitting on the bed, silent, barefoot, nightgown trailing over the floor, was Sadie. Her eyes were empty, too wide, too still. Amelia, Lena said softly. Sadie turned her head, and the corners of her lips twitched. Amelia's sleeping. Lena stepped forward. I need to speak to her. She's not allowed out anymore. Why? Because she's dangerous. She remembers. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. What does she remember? Sadie's gaze flicked to the mirror. That the real mommy wasn't in her head. Lena's blood froze. She was here, Sadie continued. In this house. She made us wear dresses. Told us to smile for pictures. Punished us when we weren't perfect. Sadie blinked. The woman who adopted Amelia. Fostered her, they said. Took her in after the first home failed. But she didn't want a daughter. She wanted a doll. Lena sat slowly on the floor, heart thundering. That's why the drawings. The dolls. Sadie nodded. She used to sew their mouths shut. Said that's what good girls do. Be quiet. Be still. Smile. Lena closed her eyes. What happened to her? The woman. She tried to erase Amelia. But Amelia learned how to hide. She made us. A pause. And one night, she stopped hiding. Lena opened her eyes. Amelia killed her. Sadie's voice dropped to a whisper. No. Mother did. The room darkened, though no light had changed. Then Lena felt it, a pressure behind her. A presence. She turned toward the mirror. In the reflection, she wasn't sitting. She was standing. Smiling. Behind her own reflection stood Mother, tall, elegant, cruelly serene. Wearing a clean apron over her nightgown, lips stitched in a tight smile. The real room was empty, but the mirror showed Lena turning, even though she hadn't. Then it moved. The reflection. Her mirror self raised its hand and pressed against the glass. And Lena, the real Lena, felt it. Cold. Soft. Like touching memory. Sadie's voice behind her. She doesn't need Amelia anymore. Lena tried to stand, but her limbs felt syrup thick. The mirror self leaned closer. Whispered something inaudible. And then, the glass cracked. Not shattered, just a single jagged vein through the middle. Lena backed away, panting, heart racing. She turned to Sadie, but the bed was empty. And stitched into the pillow in red thread was one final phrase. You know what you did? Outside, the porch light flickered out. It was 2:17 a.m. The next morning, Lena awoke on her couch, clothes still damp with sweat. The cloth that had wrapped the mirror crumpled in her hands. But the mirror was gone. Not broken. Not shattered. Gone. She rushed to the bathroom. The medicine cabinet mirror, still taped over with newspaper, had a rip in the center, as though someone had clawed their way out. Her phone buzzed. Blocked number. She answered. No voice. Just breathing. Then, faint and distant. Lena, do you remember what you did? She dropped the phone. Memories don't just come back. They detonate. That sentence, it cracked something open inside her. Blood. Screams. A basement. A girl with a cracked front tooth, holding a doll without a face. Lena wasn't born in Richmond. That wasn't where her life began. It was Norfolk. This very street. Brighton Lane. She hadn't just investigated this house. She had lived here. Not in the last 10 years. Not since joining the force. Before that. Before foster care. She was Amelia. Not the real Amelia. One of them. Lena sat on the floor of her apartment, knees pulled to her chest, her mind unraveling thread by thread. The case file said Amelia disappeared from her group home 20 years ago. But what if she hadn't? What if Mother had buried her, not in the ground, but inside her own mind? Split her into pieces. Locked her real self behind walls. Gave her a new name. Lena Maris. The detective. The protector. The one who didn't remember. She pulled out the diary again. The one she had found and now couldn't remember hiding. It was open to a page she hadn't seen before. Scrawled in a different hand. Her hand. I couldn't save her. So I became her. Below it, a list of names. Sadie. Janine. Mother. And at the very bottom, Lena. Each one, a splinter. She wasn't hunting Amelia. She was what was left of her. And Mother wasn't just a memory. She was still inside. Lena stood, trembling, walked to the taped mirror. Slowly, she peeled it back. Her own face stared back at her. But behind her eyes, too deep to name, something else smiled. A twitch of the lips. A tilt of the head. And then her reflection spoke without moving its mouth. You made me to survive. But survival has a cost. Lena whispered. What do you want? The reflection's eyes widened, glistened. You already gave it. A long time ago. Then the glass shattered, splintering outward. Lena stumbled back, bleeding, gasping. Sirens wailed in the distance. Brighton Lane burned that night. The neighbors said it looked like the flames were dancing. Like the house was finally letting go. Inside, fire crews found no one. But among the ashes, they discovered one thing untouched. A child's diary, half-burned. The final page read, My name is Amelia Kessler. I don't remember what she did. But now I do. And scrawled in red, across the bottom margin. I remember everything. Lena was never seen again. But every October 31st, at exactly 2:17 a.m., the porch light on Brighton Lane flickers once. Just once. As if someone inside remembered too.